Israel has a deep appreciation for American cinema and theater, and now it looks like that appreciation is going to go even deeper. An Israeli theater company is recreating the famous play and film The Producers here in Tel Aviv. And even though the starred Jewish director Mel Brooks won't be directing it, we're pretty sure there's a lot to look forward to. Joining us in the studio today is actor Howard Schechter, who will be starring in the play. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So to begin, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up becoming an actor here in Israel?
Well, I was an actor for many, many years on the New York stage, and then I was convinced to come out to Hollywood, where I did mostly episodic films, but I tried to stay on the stage as much as possible. And then when I made Aliyah about 6 years ago, the first thing that they said to me, the Sal Klita, said, "Oh, you're an artist, you're an actor. We give grants to actors." So I saw that that Israel was really interested in the arts and bringing, these things into people's lives and enhancing people's lives through the arts. And they encouraged me. They gave me a grant. They gave me a scholarship. So I ended up going back to work as an actor. I never dreamt that they would want an English-speaking actor here in Israel, but it turns out that there was quite a demand. So I did a play, and that ended up going to Jerusalem, and then I got an agent through that, and the agent got me some work on TV, a very, very wonderful TV show. And from that, I ended up going to another agent and doing film and, a lot of commercials and things like that. And but I always want to work on the stage. So when I was given the opportunity to do Max Bialystock and The Producers, I couldn't resist.
So, that's what's so beautiful about Israel, that there's so many opportunities for here for especially people that are coming from abroad and may not be able to find work in their home countries. Now, you're starring in this musical, The Producers. Give us a taste of the plot for those of our viewers who don't really know much about this story.
Well, The Producers is about a down-and-out producer, a producer who was a tremendous talent and a protege of the great acting teachers, and he was kind of an impresario, and he made very, very big hits on Broadway, and now he's down on his luck. So his accountant comes to do the books of his last flop, and he suggests to him that you could make more money with a flop than with a hit. So Max immediately begins to look for the worst play in the world that will close on page 4, and they find the play. And it's called Springtime for Hitler. It's kind of a love letter to Adolf Hitler, Yamach Shemo. So he figures this will be a big flop. And of course it becomes a huge hit. And they raise all kinds of money, hoping that it'll be a flop, but now they have to pay the investors back. So that, I don't want to give it away, I don't want to spoil it, but basically it's about wanting to be back on top and doing whatever it is that you have to do to do it. And again, I don't want to give away the ending, but anybody who's interested in the original movie, which was starring Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder in 1968.
Gene Wilder, exactly. I wanted to talk about that. Actor Gene Wilder, as we all know, sadly passed away last week, and he played a lead role in the first film version of The Producers. How has his death affected, your process in preparing for this show and the process of your fellow cast members, if at all?
Well, I think that the spirit of Gene Wilder inspires us all. The fact that he passed away while we're working on it just reinforces the fact that he was such a brilliant talent, and his work in the movie was, launched his career, and he brought so much laughter and so much joy to so many people, and he was such an inspired comedian. So I think his soul brings us nothing but inspiration, and I think that that's permeating the rehearsals now when we think about him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a timely thing that you're able to, launch this show in the, the year that he passed away, because it's kind of like a memory of him, So, how will the fact that this show is now being recreated in Israel with a partially Israeli cast, because I imagine there are Israelis on board as well, influence the show? I mean, this isn't the United States, we're in Israel, so there's probably some differences in how you guys are preparing.
Well, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. The cast is enormously talented. And many of the people in the cast, although they're Israeli, speak perfect English. So you really wouldn't know whether they were Israeli or they were American. And some of them are from America. You know, they're Ola, who have come here, and they're working very hard. And it's a truly dedicated and talented group of people. And I really don't think that that has anything to do with the effect that it has on us. But the interesting thing is that here's a play about one of the worst chapters in human history and about one of the greatest monsters that ever lived. And Mel Brooks has developed this way of turning it into laughter and delight. And being in Israel is even more inspiring because here we have so many people who are either the survivors or the children of the survivors or the grandchildren of survivors. And to have this play bring so much laughter and joy, it really is, it's a tremendous inspiration. And it's really a great opportunity and a great privilege to be able to bring this to the Israeli public. And it's the first time it's been done in English. It has been done in Hebrew, I understand, but it's never been done in English. So once again, it's the turning of our mourning into dancing and joy. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it.
Well, and you know, it's so interesting because we spoke about this before, but there are so many influential Jews who essentially created Hollywood, and the producers is kind of a glance into that, right? Mel Brooks directed it, he was Jewish. Gene Wilder is Jewish, he's a top actor, and obviously the characters themselves are Jewish, right? So
yes.
It must be very unique to be in the Jewish state, you know, portraying one of the characters.
It really is, but don't speak about Mel in the past tense because Mel is still alive.
Right,
and
of course
he's
he is.
90 years old.
I know, that is true.
He was just given a Medal of Honor from the President of the United States.
So we're going to have to bring him over here to watch your guys' portrayal.
You never know.
Yeah.
You know, anything can happen in Israel, and I wouldn't be surprised, Mel, if you showed up and we had lunch together. I mean,
There you go. Maybe he could direct the show for one night. That would be
well,
very interesting to watch.
I don't know if Israel Lutnick would like that, but
there you go.
Anything can happen in Israel, and that's really the truth.
So as, you know, an American actor, is there any difference between performing here in Israel versus performing in the United States?
Well, performing is performing, no matter where you're doing it, but the dynamic here in Israel is much different than the dynamic in America. And here, everything is done on a shoestring, financially, for the most part. So we don't have the great big tables of food that we have in the limousines picking us up in the morning and one thing and another. However, there's a kind of an adventure to it that doesn't exist in American television specifically. And on the stage, you know, again, performing is performing. There isn't as much money involved and there isn't as much prestige involved, but there is a spirit of kadima. Just let's do it, you know, and going by the seat of your pants. And just the Israeli culture is embodied in it, in the sense that we take so many chances in Israel, and we're just not afraid to try things. And I think as a result of that, so many of the product of Israel is now finding its way into Hollywood.
Yeah, we're seeing that with scripts, you know, TV shows here that are being recreated in the U.S. Homeland is an example of that.
Homeland is the greatest example of it, but many of the shows, the show that I worked on for Yes TV called New York was also, I think, delivered to America, one of the networks. And because the creativity, it's something that it's hard to put into words, but there's a freshness about it and a dynamism about it that I didn't experience that much in America. But here I see that these ideas are, they're allowed to develop in such a way that the American wants it, the American public wants it, because it's so unique and it really is exciting.
Yeah, well, you really can't try anything over here. That's what they say. So everybody, the producers will go on tour starting on October 19th, and you can catch the first show in Jerusalem. For more information, check out the information below. All right, thank you so much for coming in. I'm going to go and check out one of the shows myself.
Please, please come backstage afterwards and have a bottle of champagne with us.
Absolutely.